Rob Grimes with the IFBTA, and I'm very pleased this afternoon to be with Fortinet, who is our newest global industry partner, and also with Court Radke, the CISO for retail. So welcome, Court.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks for having me.
Now, I know that, we're the Food and Beverage Technology Association. We are using the word retail now, and we do realize that food and beverage is part of retail, and a lot of retailers sell food and beverage. So you spent 10 years in the restaurant industry specifically.
Yeah.
And before that, I think I heard you say that you came from outside the industry. Was that correct?
Yeah.
All right. So you've now transitioned into a broader role that's not just food and beverage, right, in restaurants, but it's all of retail?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're absolutely right. Well, I refer to retail when we're talking here, Rob. I'm talking what's near and dear to my heart and what I've been in is restaurant and hospitality, and that's a big part of our business. But as you allude to, we focus on the broadness that is retail, right? And that's not just food and beverage; it's hospitality, it's general sales, it's so many other different things out there. But I think what we found and the biggest part of the market that we were trying to capitalize on really has been this restaurant market. There's a lot of it out there. There's a lot of disparate technologies out there. There wasn't a lot of clear guidance and direction, and for a lot of parts there still isn't. And so that's what we're really trying to provide is a good framework for restaurants to use to build out and mature their security posture.
But in your current role, it's more than just restaurants. It's other areas of retail and all of hospitality, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that must give you some new experiences and some new aha moments, if you will, of things that maybe you didn't know, and maybe things that you're observing in other industries that are related to the restaurant industry that the restaurant industry can learn, and then vice versa. Are there things that the restaurant industry does really well that you've now been able to take to the rest of retail and hospitality?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that some of the things that I took as a former retailer as well, especially in the CI/CD and app development, this agile development of applications where some restaurants were more able to roll those out quickly and meet customer demand. Some of the top used apps out there are restaurant loyalty apps. I mean, you know the ones I'm talking about. And I think what a lot of retailers have learned, general retailers have learned, is there's better ways to create those apps to gain loyalty, to reach their customers, this digital transformation and omni-channel experiences. And you take that, what retail has been doing, general retail for a long time in omni-channel with AI or kiosks or things like that, touchless experience or contactless experience to reach customers now have made their way over to the restaurant space, and which has been extremely critical in the last several months to expand on those technologies, both app and then contactless and kiosk and AI.
Okay, so you're making the transition to over the last few months, and obviously the world has changed in all of hospitality, retail, and healthcare, and many industries for us. In those changes, are there specific things that have now come to the forefront that may not have been at people's attention before?
Yeah, I think so. It's interesting. Restaurant was really poised to weather the storm in the events of the last several months because they've had to deploy a lot of these technologies, change into different operational models, expand their digital presence and cloud presence to stay relevant and competitive. But I think that's been given a hyper focus recently. But some of the biggest ones have been switching to more curbside delivery, switching to delivery services in general, contactless transactions, kiosks, those AI interactions that I talked about previously. It's not that they weren't around, they were always around. But I think what we found is the technical gap that's been there for the last 5 years has kind of been shored up overnight. A lot of companies had to deploy technology rapidly to meet customer demand, rapidly to stay open for business. So it wasn't necessarily we found new technologies or deployed new things. It's expanding on what was already there.
So in your customer base, is it only about the enterprise customers, or are you guys also focused on the small to medium businesses as well?
We're focused on everybody out there. And I think it's important to build solutions that solve the problems for all of them. So we can be small, we can be lean, we can be agile, but I think the biggest thing is those solutions have to scale out.
When this happened, we've talked with a number of companies, and everybody's using the word pivot, but we've talked with a number of suppliers who have pivoted, that they came up with something they needed to do in short order. They may have had it in the toolkit, but they never thought that it was applicable. Are there any new technologies that Fortinet has either just recently brought out, or new applications or ways of using technology that they've either recently brought out because of this, or something that they are working on that you can talk about, of course, that they're working on bringing out now, in the fall because they see a new need that may not have been around before?
Yeah, I think the two technologies that are key to this IoT explosion and bring your own device and all of that as securing the network is EDR, which is endpoint detection and response, which is an evolution of just regular endpoint protection and actually being able to mitigate threats in real time, and also go back in the past and evaluate what happened, where did it come from, protect your corporate environment, as well as NAC, network access control, with tens of thousands of new devices coming online throughout your network. You have to be able to see what's on there, profile it, and control it with a good framework of technology that's out there. So EDR and NAC, but what we continue to maybe gloss over sometimes is that the budget for these may not have been cut as much as some of the other ones, and digital transformation budgets also
Right.
still didn't get cut as much as we thought. But what did was the staffing and training of people to manage these. And
Mhm.
so you need to make sure that you're not putting in technology that's undue strain on an already strained workforce. The cybersecurity skills gap is very real. So the other technologies that we're really seeing having high prevalence and probably will start seeing in the fall really kick off is I've put in all these tools. I feel like I've got a good handle on my security, but now how do I run it all? Well, you need automation. And so SOAR, security orchestration, automation, and response, and that's a mouthful. But what it really does is ties all of this context together, brings in information and feeds from all of your tools, and lets you work on them in a GUI style playbook. Essentially, you create the playbook. When I see this action again, it will run automated. And it aids in the incident response, but also aids in training because you're not having to teach somebody one by one manual. You provide them a playbook and they can read and run through that playbook. And so I think those are the tools that are really going to help companies do more with less and continue to expand on their cybersecurity tool sets that they have out there without adding undue strain on their existing staff.
Well, I think that a key message, and I'm sort of keeping track in my head, of the different points, that you just made. But for Fortinet, you were well positioned already, and many years, in the business of providing that backbone piece. You have decided as a company that the best way to work most effectively with the restaurant operator is through the person who has the relationship and knows them the best. And that can be any number of ways today because we don't really know. But at the same time, the key points that I've heard you just say that may be different today that somebody needs to think about. A, they have more applications and things that they may not have thought about using, and they put them together, some rather quickly, some they've planned. So they've got that piece. They've got more remote workers out there, and that probably is not going to change. You actually just mentioned the word training. Mm-hmm. And so people will start to doing more training, remotely, without getting into the HR issues of that, right? You have the bring your own device piece, which actually could be the employees themselves as well as the consumer. And then you have the consumer touch points that you're talking about here, which cause bandwidth, access, new applications, security. And I guess the other one that you have is that there's a whole new set of data that restaurateurs did not have before this whole thing happened. They did not have as much customer data as they do available to them today. And I don't know if I missed any points there, but I'm just sitting there scoring this saying, okay, here are all the things that somebody might not have thought about. And, Fortinet has that backbone in place. So at least you can take advantage of this and put these pieces in place. And then, as you just said, there's a strategy to bring it all together, be able to work on it as well.
Absolutely. And again, I said early on, it's kind of been a running joke that there's a 40 everything. There's a 40, gate, there's a 40 switch. I have 40 socks. There's a 40 everything, but I think it's planful and purposeful that we were well positioned for this. And so we had tool sets and services to fit the needs of customers then, now, and in the future. And not only do we work with partners to get those partners integrators to get those out to the customers, we also directly talk with customers and solicit feedback and say, what do you need? How can we solve your problems? And we can continue to build solutions for them to do that. And we listened. Right. That's why we were well positioned to help now.
Well, look, you left your former employer before all this started, at the end of last year. And, it was the end of last year?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you could not have predicted this. You probably thought that with all the experience that you had before, what you were doing before, that this was going to be a piece of cake, easy job. And I'm sort of sitting here thinking you're probably busier than you ever expected to be.
Yeah.
Not only with getting out there and solving people's problems, but actually also helping them to understand what their needs really are.
I had about 2 weeks when I came on of thinking, you know what? I'm bored. What am I going to do? I was always running, doing different things in the restaurant industry, building new technology, solving problems for customers. And then it kicked off and it never stopped. And especially over the last several months, as you said, I traveled a lot, but now I'm work pretty much fully remote, and I've never been busier because I'm able to, instead of reaching 1 to 2 to 3 customers a week, I'm able to reach 5, 6, 7 customers and partners. And we're doing this virtually now, and that's just the nature that we live in today. But I think it keeps us more connected. We're able to better get information out there and sharing, and that's one of the reasons why I think this isn't going to change. Right? We'll get back to traveling at some point, but I think reaching out, working with partners, customers via these remote means is going to continue to stay there for a long time. So you hit the nail on the head. Never been busier, but it's a good busy.
The IFBTA is very appreciative of the support and confidence and partnership that Fortinet has put in joining us as a global industry partner. And Court, I really want to thank you for your time today to introduce us officially as
Yeah.
a member of the IFBTA, and also to explain a little bit more of the vision of the company, what you offer to the industry, but actually your own personal experience having made the transition from being an operator, being on the other side of supporting the operators in the industry. So welcome to the IFBTA, and thank you so much for your support and your time today to chat with us.
Absolutely, Rob. Thank you for having me.
Great. Rob Grimes with the IFBTA and with our global industry partner, Fortinet.